guys had a great summer of camp and wish you guys the best of luck as you guys start the new school year.
Hey guys, this is Daniel, and today we got Jeremy Lin's trainer, Josh Fan, with us today. And yeah, I'll just let Josh introduce himself a bit, and we'll get started.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me, Daniel and Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess giving you a little bit about my background. I've worked with Jeremy Lin for the last 11 years. Doing his skill development as well as strength and conditioning. So that's something that I do full time, and it's something that how I got into it is a great question. Basically, Jeremy and I met when he was a freshman in college, and through a mutual family friend, and we started working out together and in the weight room and on the court. And then we'd have these hangouts where we'd play Halo, and we would just always talk about the future. And he, I remember one day we were driving, and he was kind of like, "Hey, if I ever make it pro, would you want to come work for me full time?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love that."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so after his year on the Knicks, he asked me if I wanted to come work for him full time, and moved to him when he joined the Houston Rockets, and kind of have been with him ever since then.
That's dope, man.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. It's crazy because for the viewers and people who may not know my brother and I too well, we're huge Jeremy Lin fans. If you can't tell, I got the Harvard jersey.
You got the Hornets.
The Hornets. We
Sixth
always
man
have
of
to
the
represent
year.
that. But it's crazy that we're having Josh out here to interview with us. But yeah, Jeremy's been a huge inspiration to both of us, and we started watching Jeremy since 2012. Since he went off with the Knicks, and then we've been huge fans ever since. And I literally have watched almost every game that he's played, even when he played for the Ducks. So
For sure.
No, it's crazy that we're having you on this podcast. Yeah.
True fans.
Yes,
That's
sir.
hardcore.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I guess we can get started with the questions.
For sure.
So, can you describe to me a bit about yourself and your athletic journey and career?
Yeah, so I grew up playing two sports, mainly soccer and basketball, and played those sports all throughout high school, and then I think right around maybe seventh grade or eighth grade, I became a lot more serious with basketball, playing for various travel teams, but then also, so I just played high school basketball. I didn't go to any, powerhouse school. Wasn't sure I was going to be able to play college basketball. I obviously didn't try to play college basketball. Went to Boston College, and in my first 2 years at Boston College, I did an internship for a strength and conditioning company. At the time, it was called Eats, but now it's better known as Healthy Baller. And Alan Stein and Blair O'Donovan were the two main guys working there, and actually Blair O'Donovan was the strength coach for the Washington Wizards for the last 2 years, and he's actually someone who trained me as a high school and athlete, so I still talk to him pretty frequently, since I'm back in the Maryland area. So anyways, so that was college. I also helped out with the Boston College women's basketball team as a practice player for all 4 years, so I went to a lot of practices. During that time. And yeah, so I guess that's kind of my athletic journey. I've always been really into basketball. I've always been a gym rat, first one on my team to be there on Saturday morning practices. Going into high school, I was a 5'10", 140-pound athlete, and so I was always fascinated by how to improve my performance. And so, right now I'm 5'11", 180, so I always had a fascination with their strength and conditioning and performance training. So that's kind of, where I did my internships when I was in college.
I guess that whole passion and you developing just your body and just being able to train with different trainers led you to be able to train with Jeremy during his college years. And is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think the big thing at the time was I think with me and Jeremy, it's like it started off as a friendship first, and I think that's so important, as a skill development coach is also caring for your players just beyond, like outside of the court, and, caring for their career and stuff, and also how they're doing just as a person. So, yeah, I think, having internships did help me, equip me to be able to, facilitate, Jeremy training. It wasn't like he wasn't working with his strength coach, but, we were getting in extra workouts when we can, and, during the off season, one year I flew out to Palo Alto to kind of help him train for a few weeks. So I think at that time it was just two young guys who just loved the game, loved being around the game, and loved just getting after it. So
that's dope. Yeah. I love hearing that story and just how everything blossomed later on. It's just like neat to hear from your perspective. Because obviously from the fans, like we don't know, right? Like we don't know how that relationship started, but no, it's super cool. But yeah, Jonathan, do you have anything to say, or do you want to go on to the next question?
No, I think that's great. It's cool to see how yours and Jeremy's relationship like transcends beyond just basketball. Yeah. So that's awesome. But moving on to the next question. How has your faith impacted your career?
Yeah, so I think my faith kind of always goes back to my why. Like, why do you do things? Why are you so motivated? Why do you want to grind? Why do you want to work hard? Why do you want to be the best trainer? So I think faith, this is something I've been also exploring a lot recently, is faith has given me my identity, right? Like, I know who I am. I am a child of God. He has given me, certain amount of gifts, and during my time on earth, or however long I'm here, like I want to utilize those gifts to the best of my abilities to serve like those around me, like serve the athletes I work with, and just be able to be a light with kind of anybody I'm interacting with, whether it's someone I come in contact with at the grocery store, or like you guys right now, or anybody I just kind of end up meeting, like so I think that's how faith has been integrated throughout like my career work.
It's super
awesome.
It's super neat, because like for me as a big fan, like I've gotten to know a bit about who you are just through like YouTube videos, through just videos in general, and like through media. But this summer you and I have been getting after, like you've been helping me increase my explosiveness, my athleticism, and just me being able to get to know you on a personal level. Like I can definitely attest to everything that you're saying. But it's interesting. Like you have this perception of someone, and then you wonder, like, are they really like that in real life? But no, I can definitely attest to you as to being just that, like how your faith impacts your decisions, and how you have this deeper purpose behind everything that you do. And you had told me about, just your personal training company, Awaken Training, and just the meaning behind that whole brand was just amazing to hear. I don't know if you want to expand on that, or but yeah, I thought that was super dope, and that definitely kind of gave purpose to your why.
Yeah, for sure. So this year I decided to start my own kind of training company, mainly because I wanted to spend more time with my family, and my parents are also getting older, and I just wanted to be kind of with my wife. I think, in this line of work, it requires a lot of sacrifices, and I've just been away from home for so long, and I realized that is part of life, but I'm probably not going to get that time back. And I just wanted to, I was just kind of ready for maybe like the next venture in my life. And because of everything I've been fortunate to learn working with Jeremy and our team there, I've just wanted to pass like everything we've learned from all the teams, from all the other trainers, from all the facilities we've been to. And I wanted to take that knowledge and just kind of help other people experience that transformation and kind of achieve their best self.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen like a huge improvement in my own physical abilities, and it's been crazy. Just like working with you is a different level, than other trainers I've worked with. But man, it's 100% worth it. yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah. No, you're a
That's
great
awesome.
trainer. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, to follow up on that question, is there an instance where you saw God come through for you during your training career so far, or just in life in general?
I really, well, there's one, but I want to share this one.
Sure.
Transitioning into creating Awaken training was kind of nerve-wracking for me, going into something that I didn't know whether I could get clients or get people to want to train with me, and so there was a lot of fear, which or anxiety based on what I just shared with you. But I think it's been a huge miracle, as in like all the people that has brought, all the people God has brought to me has been like, every single person has been like a divine client.
Yeah.
Or like, it's been like crazy. Everyone's had a really meaningful story, and I've really resonated with their story, and it's been like a very so what your question is, when has God showed up? And I think during this time where I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know what this business was going to become, like God brought all of these people to me that I couldn't have even kind of imagined. So it's been a huge blessing in that instance, and I'm really thankful for everyone that has been willing to take their time and invest in me and get after it.
Yeah, no, Josh, like everything you said was amazing, and I kind of feel like God led both of us on that same sort of path, and our stories have kind of intersected. It's crazy because the past 10 years, my brother and I have been supporting Jeremy, as we mentioned before. We've been huge fans, and this year, my youth pastor had asked if I could start this camp, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just knew I had a huge passion for training and ministering to youth. But I definitely grew in my faith a lot this year, and a verse that really resonated with me was Proverbs 16:3, which is commit your ways to the Lord and He'll establish your path. I was praying that while I was planning my camp, that I'd be aligned with the right people. So the night before I had launched my video announcement, I had mentioned this to you, was the night that the two of us kind of got into contact. I was dumbfounded, the fact that like Jeremy Lynn's trainer is potentially becoming my trainer, and it was just ridiculous. And I knew that was from God, and that was an answer to my prayers. But it's crazy to see God come through. And when He really does, it's just so real and it's so evident, but yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
Jonathan cut out.
I think also adding on to that, Josh, like I love the part where you said it's all about the why, and why you do that. So why you started your business, why you got into what you're doing, and it's ultimately to glorify God. And it's great to see that. Like I think it always comes back to the why, and what we do on this earth is to serve a greater good, and that's to ultimately build His kingdom. And I love that the whole about you starting your business with Awaken Training is to ultimately build His kingdom. So that's great to see, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a more like greater outlook on things. So that's awesome. The next question that we have is, this one's kind of like a 3-part question, but was there a time in your career where you faced adversity? Leading on to that, did you turn to God in that situation? And then was there a breakthrough?
Yeah, so I mean, I can think of definitely a couple. Well, we've experienced a lot of adversity, but for myself, I can think of a few instances that I can maybe share and discuss. I think one thing during my career, or I speak of my career like I'm super retired, but one thing during the time while we were in the NBA, I think I really struggled with imposter syndrome. I'd be walking into these NBA facilities and these NBA courts and meet their coaching staff and meet their skill development coach, meet their strength coach, but I just felt like I didn't belong. I felt like people saw me that I was Asian, probably Jeremy's brother or cousin or just part of his entourage. And I really struggled with that a lot, and had a lot of insecurities with that. And I think, I had to keep reminding myself of, that my identity is not in what people think about me or whatnot. I knew that God had brought me and Jeremy together, and we were on this journey, that I was helping him, right? And that we had like a really good partnership and stuff. And it wasn't up to me success isn't like getting these people to like you or accept you and stuff. And so I think like imposter syndrome, I really had to rely on God's word of that my identity is not in what other people think about me. And that the position I was in is exactly where God wanted me. And that required me to grow in a lot of ways, and grow spiritually, emotionally, because I was still holding on to a lot of my identity on like superficial stuff, you could say, or
that's great.
Affirmation from others, affirmation from not God, right? So I think that was hard. And then obviously during Jeremy's career, there was a lot of setbacks, with some injuries and just certain things not going our way, and lots of ups and downs. But I guess that kind of brings me back full circle to Luke 12, right?
Yeah.
I really believe that God has created. It's been a roller coaster, and it's not about. It's embracing even the lows, and it's hard. It's easy to say when I'm not in the low to say to embrace the lows, but there's been a lot of lows and there's been a lot of highs, and God has been. The important thing is God has been with us through both, and has been shaping us and teaching us a lot about Him through that entire process. So.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I think what's cool about that, sorry Daniel, but like you were talking about before in the start of the interview, how like even before when you started working with Jeremy, you didn't feel like you were qualified, or even now you mentioned how you said you felt a little bit out of place. It's cool to see that, because like I've heard this saying where it says like God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And it's cool because like for us, like sometimes we feel that we may not feel like we're qualified, or we're not gonna do well in this certain path, but ultimately God lays out our footsteps, and it's cool to see that He's like raised you up so high, right, to make a difference for His kingdom. So it's great.
And I was just gonna say, like, it's interesting because when you talk about the whole imposter syndrome, like I've heard interviews and just like times where Jeremy's talked about himself, but I didn't realize that like his trainer went through it, or others that he associates with also went through it. So it's very, very interesting to hear all this. But there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from these things, right? And it just makes us stronger in the
100%.
I think one thing to add about that is, universally, I do believe most humans or individuals have limiting beliefs that they've accumulated through, whether it's what their parents tell them, or what their friends tell them, or what the culture tells them. And it's really important if you want to break through and kind of make it to the next level, or to kind of achieve who you really are. It's to continually identify what those limiting beliefs are, right? A lot of people will say, I'm just not athletic enough, I'm just not pretty enough, I'm just not smart enough, I just didn't go to that school, I didn't have these resources. People tend to always box them, like surround themselves almost with an invisible prison, right? And that's not how God designed us to live with. Obviously there's certain limitations, right? Which we're all aware of, but God didn't design us to live in a very imprisoned life, right? It's to live out the calling and the freedom to kind of do that. So that's one thing, like for people who are watching, it's really important that you identify what that is for you, right? And as you, Daniel, like you have your camp and you're trying to do stuff impactful, you're trying to make an impact in that Toronto area and do like great things with sports as well. Like you will find that you start thinking like, oh, well, I'm not as good as this camp, or we don't have this many people, or I don't have a big enough following on IG. Like there's always going to be these limiting beliefs, and I think it's really critical those things, and then figure out what the Bible says about those things, right? Are those true? Are those things absolutely true? Or is that kind of Satan trying to, take our knees out under us, right?
Yeah, you have to counteract these limiting beliefs with truths from the Word of God, right? And that's all we can like put our foundation on, right? But yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Just one more question before we finish this off, but what is some advice that you would give yourself in high school after having graduated,
Yeah, there's two pieces of advice. If my 18-year-old self I was talking to right now would be, the first one would be curious, not judgmental, right? It's obvious people attribute that to Walt Whitman, but that Walt Whitman did not say that, even though it's quoted in Ted Lasso as him saying that. But I do love that. Be curious, not judgmental. And what I mean by that is so much of when we're young is so much of a comparison game, comparing ourselves to this guy or this player, or our moms do it. Oh, Daniel, why are you not as smart as Jonathan? Why is Jonathan getting better grades than you? Why is he always wake up on time? Why are you always late? Right? So be curious. What is be curious? I think, when we're young, we're so wound up with our own appearance and identity that we aren't curious about the world. We're not curious about the people around us, but we are extremely judgmental, right? Like, oh, that guy can't check me. Like, that guy is whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would have told myself to have been less judgmental, because I was very judgmental, and I think that was very toxic, maybe in a lot of relationships I had as a kid. And be curious, as in don't close your mind off to things. In today's day and age, a lot of kids are playing video games, attached to their screen.
Yeah.
They're not getting out into the world and being curious about things and those types of things. I just said things twice. But and the second thing I would tell myself is learn to be a problem solver. Right? So it doesn't matter what profession you're in. If you're a skill development coach, you're whatever job, IT guy, computer coder, being a great problem solver is really important, and to be able to think critically about problems, I think is one of the best skill sets. If I could tell myself to develop that skill set, even as a skill development coach, always thinking, we have this set of problems, or these are our set of weaknesses. How can we get you better? How can we operate against this defense more efficiently?